Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co host, Darby Robinson. We are live on X at the D Raise Bay account and live on youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice. Or we are also available wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening as a podcast, though, didn't know we were on YouTube, head on over to youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice. Subscribe and turn on those notifications so you know every time we go live. You can join us in the comments. And if you really want to say thank you, you can head on over to patreon.com/Raise Your Voice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. Darby, second off day this week. Which is kind of brutal as a fan. It feels a little bit like maybe you're dipping our toes. We're like a month away from the All-Star break. This is what it's going to feel like to not have baseball for a few days. But we are coming off a 2-game sweep of the Marlins, and then about to host the Orioles for a wraparound series and the Cubs for a 3-game set. And the Rays are on a 3-game winning streak. They're getting healthy. They beat the Marlins, but what's new? I don't think we've lost to the Marlins last like 10 years, it feels like.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Oh.
It's much better going into an off day. Well, I'd say that, but it is nice to enjoy this off day on a 3-game winning streak right now. Do we lose Darby or do we lose me? Darby appears to be frozen, but there's a chance my internet's gone out because it is storming here.
Oh, I'm back. I am back.
You're back.
Might have been a little.
Okay, I think. Are you back?
I'm here.
Okay. We have you back. I think we're good. Let's keep it rolling. This very well could be my internet with the storm. I have no clue. Do we lose Darby? Maybe if I take him off the stage for a second. Oh, maybe now he's back. All right, now it seems like you're back.
Okay. I'm back. I'm back.
Rays, 3-game winning streak. We get to enjoy the off day, but what are your thoughts on how the team is playing and obviously getting some guys back from the injured list?
They're playing better. It's still been a little rough. Yesterday's game against the Marlins, where they ended up winning 5-3, was the first game. I think what was the stat from Evan Klosky?
Yeah,
I think May 17th was the first Rays did not trail in a game. So it's been about 2 weeks or almost 3 weeks with trailing in every game. So they've definitely been playing better, more competitive baseball as of late. And it kind of started with like an absolutely brutal homestand where the Red Sox swept them. Then the Royals got the first 2, but like that Royals series, after that first game of the Royals series, they played much better. They forced a very good Royals team to extra innings, lost, had a chance to win it, lost in extras, then won on the Sunday. Beat a very resilient Athletics team, won that series, kind of pushed the Orioles to the limit on that series. Yeah. I mean, they won a game against the Orioles. I was expecting a colossal sweep. I was expecting a bottoming out of the season on that one. I wasn't expecting a sweep. I was expecting a sweep with like ill intent. But that wasn't the case. I mean, like the Orioles won a really close game, 3-1 for the start of that, which was, in all honesty, could have gone either way. Obviously not enough offense from the Rays. What's new? But bullpen just kind of let it up a little bit. Still very, very close. Orioles kind of pulled away late against Taj. Again, Taj Bradley had his worst start of the year. But the Rays scored some runs against Kyle Bradish. They scored 5 runs. I mean, that's pretty darn great. I did not expect that. And then the Rays were able to beat the Orioles in Baltimore. So I would say from the Kansas City series on, and then obviously against the Marlins with a pretty comfortable 2-game sweep in Miami. That's about 4 straight series where I would say that the Rays have played competitive baseball. It hasn't been always pretty. It hasn't always been clean. The offense is still really struggling, but there's glimmer of hope. There is some hope. And I think that's what we've been looking for a long time now this season is just, well, what did we see? We saw Randy Arozarena get on base 5 times in one of those Marlins games. A almost Brandon Guyer-esque line of 1 for 1 with 2 walks and 2 hit by pitches. But listen, the on-base percentage counts all the same. Getting on base, that's all that matters. And Randy did that. He actually had like a 7, I think, straight at bat appearance with getting on base.
That's crazy, yeah.
Which is amazing, right? We just you're just waiting on the Rays are at a point where you're just waiting on guys to kind of wake up. And obviously the biggest thing, healthy and back, and God bless, we've missed him, is Brandon Lau. So Brett, can you just talk about the difference that having Brandon Lau in this lineup does?
I mean, we talk about with Josh Lowe that how much he stretches the lineup, and he was back this week as well. Josh Lowe, as good as I think he is, hasn't fully solidified himself as an all-star level bat. I thought that was the jump we might see him take this year. Injuries are probably playing a part in why he hasn't. Brandon Lau, though, is a bona fide, major league all-star, a guy with 40 home run power. This is, a very respected hitter around the league, and having him in the lineup, man, he destroys baseballs. He's aggressive but selective at the same time. He is one of the more talented hitters the Rays have ever had, I think. And it shows on the field, and he's pretty good at second base. I never feel like worried when he's at second. I always feel like he's not a Gold Glove winner, but he's reliable, and that's important. And
he makes more plays than he misses at second.
That's very true.
And I think that's the thing, right? Is with that bat, you can get by with a lot of down play. I think he does. And we actually earlier in the season against Colorado, he had a game saving defensive play.
Yeah,
at second base, turning a double play. So I think Brandon Lau defensively, he's had his moments, but again, he's not a butcher in the field, and I think you would almost accept that with the bat level that he provides. I mean, he's one of the best productive power bats in second baseman history, not Rays history, but he's in the top 10 when it comes to every power metric. When it comes to second baseman, he's put up a hell of a career when healthy. It's just staying healthy has been the issue. And so with the Rays, him coming back, I mean, you saw it. He had a 3-run home run, lefty on lefty against a very talented lefty in Jesus Luzardo. Had RBI double to go ahead in that game as well. Had another big hit in the game after. I mean, Brandon Lau had a big hit in the Rays win over the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, I think Brandon Lau is that the Rays' biggest issue is power. They don't have power right now. Brandon Lau, because he is far and away their best power bat. He is one of the best power bats in the American League East. And that's high praise, right? You're talking about a lineups with huge power, but Brandon Lau's productivity puts him above guys like Vlad Guerrero Jr. in terms of power. I mean, that's big. That's been Vladito's kind of big thing is a lot of great hitting, but can he elevate? Can he get to his father's prodigious home run power? Giancarlo Stanton, all the power in the world. Can he make enough contact? Don't really have those questions with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. They're just gods, but they're at the top for a reason. Yeah. But Brandon Lau, you can look at his numbers. You consistently put him with Rafael Devers. That's the category of hitter he's been in every available metric you can look at. These guys have been really, really talented hitters, and hitters that when they're in the lineup, they can make the rest of the lineup better, not so much because of like protection, but because oftentimes the guys behind him, he's hitting, he's on base because people don't really want to give him a pitch to hit.
Can I rattle off some Brandon Lau nuggets for you?
Please do.
So never had a season. He's never had a season below a 100 WRC plus. His lowest season by WRC plus was his shortest season due to injury. He played just 65 games in 2022 and had a 104 WRC plus. He continued to walk though at a double-digit rate. OBP was over 300, and he chipped in 8 home runs over 266 plate appearances. But that was by far his weakest year offensively. Highest year being 2020 in the short season, 151 WRC plus, managed to hit 14 home runs and just 224 plate appearances. And then obviously the 2021 season, 136 WRC plus, worth 4.5 Fangraphs wins above replacement, 39 home runs, 99 runs batted in. Since 2018, which was his rookie year, and I'm cherry picking a little bit here with the minimum plate appearance, 2,000 minimum plate appearances. Brandon Lau leads all second basemen since 2018 in walk rate. He is first in isolated power. He is third in slugging percentage. He is second in WRC plus, behind only future Hall of Famer Jose Altuve. He is the best of the best, and he pretty much always has been. We give a like when I say Randy Arozarena, and we've said this before, like going into this season, that he was the Rays' most consistent player. He was the most consistently good player.
Mm-hmm.
His numbers were very similar. That's what we meant by consistent. We haven't seen very many players that have played at the level of Brandon Lau has had those peaks and then sustained overall success for this long in a Rays uniform, really since. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Evan Longoria, but I'm talking about this run of sustained success since
Carlos
Evan
Pena.
Longoria.
Carlos Pena too. I mean, like Carlos Pena's time with the Rays was just like excellence. I like tweeted some of y'all don't deserve Brandon Lau, and it's true. Some of y'all do not deserve him because I see the comments, I see the hate, and listen. Anytime Brandon Lau does something great, you'll hear people try to be like, what about October? What about October? I mean, looking, Randy Arozarena was historically amazing in the 2022 or the 2020 postseason.
Right.
What has he done the last 2 postseasons? Last 2 postseasons, he has 1 extra base hit more than Brandon Lau did. And Brandon Lau didn't play in either of those. We forget that in 2020, Brandon Lau is one of the guys that's responsible for why the Rays win that historic Game 4 of the World Series. They don't win that game without Brandon Lau. This is just one of those things where it's like, I'd love for Brandon Lau. Here's the thing. If Brandon Lau this year, if the Rays make the postseason and Brandon Lau has a unbelievable historic run in the postseason, if people then suddenly change their entire narrative to say that Brandon Lau is actually the best postseason hitter of all time, that would be silly, right? Well, that's what we're doing with like Randy. That's all I'm saying with this is not to denigrate Randy, but just to say that like the postseason, we go from this guy can't hit in the postseason to this guy is Mr. October so fast. And it's all based on like 15 to 30 plate appearances. Like it's an insanely small metric. And if the reason you dislike Brandon Lau is because of like 65 plate appearances in October over the course of 4 seasons, then I just feel sad for you, right? Like you're missing out on one of the all-time great Rays players, like one of the finest second basemen of his generation. Like if you feel disappointed because Brandon Lau's hurt all the time, I get that. I'm disappointed he's hurt all the time. He's disappointed more than all of us that he's hurt all the time. And a lot of them have been weird, fluky injuries. Like they've been really fluky injuries, right? So like the thing is, I want Brandon Lau on this team because I have eyes. I watch him. The eye test is there. The stats are there. We've said this a bunch of times in this show, though. Just look at what pitchers do. Look at what other pitchers do. Brandon Lau versus Yandy and Randy and Josh Lowe. And like, those are good hitters. And pitchers will go, I'll take my chances with Yandy. But Brandon Lau almost never, he is hitting breaking balls out because people really don't want to give him a fastball. People will try to dot. He will expand the zone sometimes, but he'll just take his walks. Pitchers pitch him like he is a terrifying bat. That tells me everything you need to know about Brandon Lau, because the people in the game understand that guy, that dog, is extremely, extremely good.
Yeah, and I think
also, sorry to break it to Yankees fans, but barking and calling somebody a dog, you didn't invent it in 2024. You didn't. I'm sorry. It's amazing. Hold tight. That's not something you just came up with.
The Rays, I think, believe everything we say too. Like,
they do.
There's a reason. Like every time he's back, he's hitting the middle of the order. He's playing second. Like, the Rays believe in him, and everyone else should. Like, there's no reason not to, in my opinion.
He saved us from the dreaded all right-handed lineups. He played against two lefties in the middle of the order, and it was like it was manna from heaven to finally see a different-handed bat against the lefty. It was incredible.
That being said, I feel like we've had this discussion every week. That's kind of most of how the season goes. It's more guys getting healthy. Taylor Walls and Colin Poche both finished their rehab assignments. AAA Durham. I got to watch them on Tuesday, and they look to be back, which means we're going to get some more roster news tomorrow. Let's start with the pitching side. Poche, I mean, it's got to be either Lovelady or Davinsky as the ones to go. I'm thinking Lovelady, but do you have other thoughts?
So this is an interesting question. This is right now, these two guys, both Walls and this, it is like now the trickiest one. Currently, I would say I just can't imagine. So in terms of options, Kevin Kelly has an option. I just can't imagine them dropping Kevin Kelly. And you have to look at the two lefties, right? So Lovelady, I definitely think, is in there. He's in that run. He has not had a great start with the Rays, but he's had a couple of decent appearances. So it hasn't been all bad. Lefty has good stuff. Chris Davinsky, like an 85% changeup guy. So he definitely works better against lefties. So kind of that reverse. He's a righty, but he's kind of more of like a lefty specialist. And length. He can go a little longer. I personally would rather see Davinsky DFA'd for Poche, and then let Armstrong kind of slide into the bulk multi-inning role, and then let Lovelady be kind of the lower leverage lefty. And then you have Poche and Clevenger as your higher leverage guys. I mean, I think right now the A pen is Pete Fairbanks, Jason Adam, and Garrett Clevenger. And by the way, can we just real quick aside, the bullpen is definitely starting to round into form. Having Poche back is going to be even better, because it just Lovelady or Davinsky going down, I think Poche is he is a welcome return. But Pete Fairbanks against the Marlins had to come in, clean up Phil Maton's mess to get the save with the bases loaded, no out. Then came in the next day, 2-run lead, and that was maybe the filthiest 6 outs I've seen for Pete Fairbanks all season. Like, unhittable, unfair. Just the Marlins, what like there's no hope with what he was doing. Unbelievable. So great to see Pete Fairbanks back, like, sharp again. But yeah, so you're saying Lovelady. I'll say Davinsky just so we covered our bases, so we can say Raise Your Voice was right, no matter what happens. until like Kevin Kelly gets optioned or something.
I don't feel like that's likely. I feel like Lovelady gonna kind of be like last one in, first one out type of thing.
Yep.
I mean, Davinsky they did commit to in the offseason. I'm guessing at that point, like that's the way I lean, the way I do, but who knows? We're deep enough into the season. Davinsky's guaranteed his money, so I guess it doesn't really matter at this point. I mean, obviously he'd like to pitch in the big leagues, but
they're both like, I don't think it's going to be a huge I don't think there's going to be too many Rays fans that are like, oh God, no. I mean, I know Colin Poche isn't exactly the most like beloved Rays pitcher, but he is very good as well. He can be a little cardiac. He could definitely be a little cardiac. I'm not going to lie. But would you rather Phil Maton in that role or Colin Poche? And I'm taking Colin Poche right now. Like if you're you add Poche, you bump everybody else down a little bit, right? Like,
what do you think they do with Maton? I feel like that's not working out in the way they expected.
Keep pitching him and hope he works out. I think
lower leverage. Maybe
I don't think they get anything for him.
Yeah, it would be a giveaway basically.
I think he's somebody who he's had a streak where he pitched very well not too long ago. He has not pitched well in high leverage. He has been just not. He's not looked as sharp as he has with Cleveland or with Houston. So I don't think I would not be willing to be done with him yet. But I would still kind of use him, kind of like how the Rays have been using him, right? Like they used him up 4 bases empty in the 9th against the Marlins, and he couldn't handle that at all. He was completely wild. Like that was every pitch he threw was one of the worst pitches I've ever seen. They were either way wide or like cookies. So he was just shaky. He was just off. And then thankfully Pete Fairbanks came in and then just threw some of the best darts I've ever seen. Like absolutely mowed through like the heart of the order. I mean, just like Pete Fairbanks can, right? Like that was, you just got your adrenaline up. Like if it was 4-0, if it was 4-run lead and bases empty, I don't know if Pete Fairbanks is as good in that performance but with the bases loaded with where one swing could end the game or tie the game, I should say. I think Pete Fair, that's the energy. That's why he's a good closer, is he's got the crazy sauce in there where it's like 4-run lead and nobody on, like that would be boring. Maybe you're like, maybe get some ground outs, pop flies, but bases loaded, it's like I'm tearing through these people now. I'm going to eat some souls. And that's what he did. So I'm happy to have Poche back. I do think it just bumps guys like Maton down. And then I think if you're looking at the bottom, it's Davinsky and Lovelady, and one of those guys just gets bumped off the roster. And
yeah, I tend to agree.
Just a positive for the Rays right now. Taylor Walls, though, is the one this is the question mark.
It feels like it's decision time, right? Like the Rays have kind of been bailed out every time they've had to make these decisions.
We've talked about this a lot, where we're like, what's the decision? And then somebody gets hurt. Like
they did send Jonathan Aranda down when Josh Lowe was back, and that one to me made more sense the more I thought about it. Now it feels like
playing time.
Yeah, now it feels like it's going to come down to DeLuca, Harold, or Ahmed Rosario,
or Palacios. Palacios, I think, I think he would be my last choice of those 4 personally.
100%.
Mostly from vibes, because he just is a cool guy, and I just love him. He has struggled a little bit since it's a very hot start, but like he's also just like, I'm never gonna be mad at this guy. Like he can do anything. Yeah. He's great.
He hasn't started the last 3 games, but that's also because they faced 3 straight lefties.
Yeah, and like the lineup's deeper now. It is a lot deeper, right? So like you do, like if you're against a lefty, you have to play Harold, because there's no other reason to have him on the roster not for that. Yeah. And Harold has been hitting a little bit better as of late. Like I'm not gonna like fault him. He's been okay. And then you're gonna if you're gonna bring up a lefty, or you're gonna use a lefty against the lefty, Lau's your first choice, Josh Lowe is your second choice. So now Palacios is your third. I think it is an interesting question, though. I think Palacios is in the mix, but I would like to kind of maybe push him off for me as like not the choice, mostly because Walls is a switch hitter, but the Rays are still pretty thin lefty wise. Like you have Brandon Lau, you have Josh Lowe. Then if Walls is back, you have Walls, and that's it. You know, Ben Roodrit you have, but like that catchers don't really count. That's a position unto itself. That's like not in this. You know, because some people are like, why did you send down Aranda when Alex Jackson is hitting poorly? It's like, well, he doesn't catch. So like that's a two different things. Like Alex Jackson they're doing two different things here. We can't DH for a catcher. That's not how as much as we would love to, the league doesn't work like that. I still think you keep Palacios even if the playing time becomes a lot harder to find because of the fact that he's got some speed off the bench, he has defensive versatility, and he's a lefty. And I think that is worth it, right? I think that is still valuable. So let's go down the list. You said Rosario and Harold, and then Johnny DeLuca. DeLuca's been scuffling a bit. Some of the batted ball data is a little bit better, though. He has earned a little bit more than he's gotten, but he was like 0 for 25, I think. Yeah. Something like that.
It was not.
Shave the mustache. Shave the mustache. Well, hold on. He's still hot. Just not.
Yes, he is. He was.
Yeah, he's still hot. He's still hot. Like let's not lie to our audience here. But at the plate, he is quite cold. Yes, I will agree. We are at the point, though, just to say, like what we're talking about now, like Aranda went down. If DeLuca or Palacios get optioned, that I don't think doesn't tell you anything about the Rays saying they don't like those guys. It's just now it's like, do they keep going with maintaining roster control, or like we talked about, do they finally make a decision? Is Harold Ramirez staying on this team? Is Ahmed Rosario getting flipped a little early from the deadline? Is he a key contributor or not? So what's your takes? What's your gut telling you right now?
My gut is telling me that I think it will be Harold Ramirez DFA'd. I do think the time has come. But an Ahmed Rosario trade, that sounds very Rays like. That sounds like an Eric Neander special this time of year.
I do see Rosario being traded as one of those things where it's like it's not selling, it's just like shifting, right? Like
right.
Because Rosario's good. Like he's very good. Like I still like him as a key. He's a great utility player. But you also saw with like Aranda, like that's a very good bat. Like I think there's a reason why they believe in Jonathan Aranda, and his bat was looking really good. Like he's still not great in the field, but like I think the bat can absolutely play, and we were seeing some really good stuff. So I think Aranda's got a role in this team. It's just a little crowded right now. I do think they're going to eventually have to make a choice pretty soon with Harold and with Rosario. I wouldn't be shocked to see like a little Rosario, Jeff Passan breaking news.
Yeah,
Rosario
acquired by Cleveland. Can you go back to Cleveland? Could they
back to Cleveland? Back to Cleveland? I don't know. What about Atlanta?
Oh, Atlanta. Yeah,
Atlanta.
Atlanta makes a little too much sense, I think.
Seattle. They lost Polanco.
Seattle would be interesting. The Braves bench right now is Travis d'Arnaud, Brian Anderson, Zach Stork, and JP Martinez. They could use a little Ahmed Rosario right now. I think
that's a nice little move. That's a nice little move. I like that. Let me see.
Yeah,
see if we can make a.
Are you on?
That's just like a nice trade. I think like you got like the Braves also just kind of line up because there's like some nice, interesting like AAA, AA depth that you could just like pick up I was like, nice little
on
pitcher.
the Mariners, Rosario slots in. Like I could see Rosario starting.
And they
quite a
just picked
bit.
up Robles. Ryan
Yeah.
Bliss has been up as your rookie.
Dylan Moore is starting at second base for the Mariners right now.
Demo's better. Moore's better.
Okay.
Because he plays all over. But like as a righty, they have all righty on the bench, but like they're not good.
Yeah.
Like Bliss is young, speed. So you could kind of basically, it's like whether or not you want a veteran or if you want like Bliss to kind of be your speedy right fielder. You just picked up Robles, which is like kind of like a worse version of Rosario, but like kind of the same as Rosario too, like a cheap former top prospect who's still like shockingly young, even though you feel like he's been around the league forever, who's very fast. It's like the same person. Like Victor Robles is 27. Did you know that?
Ooh, I didn't.
I feel like I've heard about Victor Robles for close to 7 years, which is probably possible. He probably came up when he was 20, but like that's a long time.
No, he came up pretty young. I remember that.
Texas. If Seager's hurt a little bit, I mean, here's the problem with Rosario is he can play. He's the benefit is he's a utility guy who can play everywhere, even shortstop. Mm-hmm. The problem is he can't field any of those positions. He's got a glove for the outfield, second base, shortstop, third. Just can't field any of them. But he can.
He's got fantasy eligibility for all those positions.
He's great for the fantasy. He's great for your fantasy leagues, especially stolen bases. Right? He is a good stolen base guy. I don't like. I would not. I've enjoyed Rosario on the team a lot, and I don't want him to be like traded necessarily, but it does make a lot of sense because Jose Caballero is your starting shortstop. With Taylor Walls coming back, he's now your potentially platoon option against righties at short or even at second, and now you can move Lau to DH, right? And give him a little bit of breaks off because then your middle infield is kind of fantastic, right? You have Taylor Walls and Jose Caballero in the middle, Isaac Paredes at left on the third base, Lau at DH, Josh Lowe in left field. Here's the other question. So say it's not Rosario. I feel like we've beat the drum about Harold enough. So like, it's just a matter of whether they want to do that or not. And I think at this point, though, it feels like they're going to hold him through the deadline. My gut instinct says they're going to hold Harold Ramirez through the deadline and then kind of make the decision. See where the chips fall after the deadline. Like whether they're selling, whether they're buying, whether they're buying and selling. If Caminero is back healthy at that point, then you can be like full reset post July. That's my thought. So I just don't see Harold going down. I do think Johnny DeLuca being optioned is probably the like you haven't quite lined up a trade yet. If the trade hasn't been agreed to like today, in theory with Rosario, then I think you just see Johnny DeLuca going down tomorrow. Gets everyday plate appearances. The outfield becomes Josh Lowe, Jose Siri, Randy Rosarena, which is your starting outfield. You keep Palacios because now you have your fourth outfielder. You keep Rosario, who can technically be your fifth outfielder. Same with Harold, like they can stand out there. I think DeLuca probably has the hardest path to playing time with Josh Lowe healthy and with Jose Siri kind of with his kind of, he said he shortened his swing a bit. He's a little bit, he's two-handed at the bat now, finishing with both hands. So I'm my guess, I'll lock it in. Johnny DeLuca is the move for Taylor Walls.
So DeLuca getting sent down, like I kind of want to break that down a little bit more. The Rays did make a trade today.
They did.
Traded Ruben Cardenas, who had been with the Durham Bulls for a little bit, traded him to Philadelphia. My girlfriend, we've been going to Bulls games all season, and Ruben Cardenas, his nickname is Scooby. She's a big like Scooby-Doo fan. And so that was like immediately like her favorite player. And since he was traded today, I told her, I was like, now you're officially part of the Rays fandom. You fall in love with the player just to see him traded away. This is what it feels like. But no, Ruben Cardenas was traded kind of like an outfield first base, like corner outfield first base spot. They did also call up Heriberto Hernandez, who, if you remember, the Rays acquired in the Nate Lowe trade. He had a no doubt homer on Tuesday in his first game at AAA. That power is still there. I don't know what type of hitter he is overall or how he projects the big league level, but that raw power is still there. Probably only second to only Caminero in the Rays system right now in terms of raw power. But I think Jake Mangum's on the IL. Yu Chang's still on the IL. He's an infielder. Logan Driscoll's on the IL. Like, there is space on Durham. They do need some more guys to fill out the lineup, and I think Johnny DeLuca could push like a Tristan Peters to the bench a little bit more, and he slots into the outfield. I think there's room for that now, especially after the Cardenas trade to just give him all those at bats.
DeLuca's a super valuable player, and I've really liked what I've seen from him. Very good defense. I think the bat really plays. Good base runner. I just think right now, getting those consistent plate appearances is actually a pretty good thing. And it seems like a fair, just middle tier move. Like, you don't need to, you're not like, you get to kick the can a little bit more. You get to kick the can like a couple more weeks and without really hurting anything.
Yeah. The Rays have the Orioles coming up again. It's a 4-game set starting Friday, so it wraps around to Monday. Like you said, coming off a tough series where you lose 2 out of 3, but you really competed in all 3 games. There's definitely some bad baseball played by the Rays in there. I think they were lucky not to get kind of run out of the building on one of those nights, but 4-game series at home after a week where you get a couple of off days in the state of Florida, right? So a lot less traveling. Coming off a couple of weeks ago where you had like your back-to-back off days, like a Thursday and then a Monday, both at home. Like, I feel like the Rays should be pretty rested right now. They've gone through some tough stretches, but they're about to start, I think, another tough stretch with a lot of games and not a lot of days, probably running up pretty close to the All-Star break. But how are you feeling? Is there a chance that the Rays could take this series at home or play for a split? I mean, I'll take a split today, I think.
I will love a split.
I haven't looked at the pitching.
Don't look at the pitching. It's bad. It's not good. I mean, it like the Rays line up as well as they can, right? It's so Friday it's Aaron Savali versus Cole Irvin.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm seeing Aaron Savali versus Kyle Bradish.
Okay, so Roster Resource has Savali versus Irvin, Taj Bradley versus Bradish, Littell versus Grayson Rodriguez, and Pepio versus Corbin Burns.
Have the Orioles announced yet? Because I'm on like the teams page. I'm not on the Roster Resource. I have to check this out.
It seems likely that we'll have Irvin, Bradish, Rodriguez, Burns in some order.
Yeah, it'll be Irvin, Bradish, and then Rodriguez, and then Burns.
Yeah.
So Ryan Pepio is probably your best pitcher out of that group right now, and you're using him against Burns. We're not.
And then Littell versus Grayson Rodriguez is an interesting matchup too.
I don't know. Grayson Rodriguez is pretty good.
Taj Bradley versus. I mean, those guys are all freaking amazing, right? Like I'll say it again. Like, I'm expecting a sweep and like not even a competitive one. Like, I just saw it. Like, you look at this Baltimore team and they're like insane. They're so good. And until the Rays consistently play like very good baseball, like I just can't imagine any team like really competing with Baltimore or New York right now. No, the Rays have, but like, and baseball can baseball. So like maybe they can steal one of these, but like if the Rays won this series, I feel like it's the vibe shift of all vibe shifts.
Yeah.
Because like that would change everything. I just think if they can just keep these close, try to steal one, maybe steal two and get that split. That would be amazing. That would be huge. But like look at this. The Baltimore team, these pitchers, like those all four of those games I have as like strong like edge Baltimore. Like by like a run and a half. Like that the betting lines are like really high there.
I'm not as confident in it, but I
home.
think the Rays, I think they'll be favored in at least one of these games. I think the Taj Bradley
they probably will, but
they might be. It might be pretty close for the Littell Rodriguez game. I'm thinking it might be like
I could see that one being close. I think
Orioles minus 105 Rays, something like that.
Irvin over Savali's strong advantage. Irvin's been amazing. Bradley versus Bradish, they just pitched, and both guys did not play very well. They both pitched pretty poorly for their standards. Bradley pitched, he got kind of like lit up, but Bradish still he gave up 5 and like could have gotten like hit around a little bit more. Littell and Pepio versus Rodriguez and Burns should be pretty entertaining. But like this is going to be a real litmus test of a line, like a series, right? Like, I mean, if this series goes similar to the series in Baltimore that they just played, where it's very close, Baltimore is clearly the better team, the Rays play sloppy, are able to like steal a game or two, I think that's like, you just take it, right? Because the Rays are just not quite there yet, and they may not be able to put it all together, but like, if Randy can come alive and like really contribute this series, and he has hit well against Baltimore in the past, if the pitchers can all like really lock in and make these low scoring games, then yeah, like it's hard to picture right now still the Rays in the series against Baltimore. Like that's just where I'm at. Like it's hard to like imagine like what goes on. The way I see that, how they can do it is the pitching is lights out. And these are all just, the offense is hard to come by. And we're talking 1 or 2 runs here and there. And when you have a game like that, like it's great. Like Cole Irvin's awesome, right? If he gives up 1 run in like 6 innings, that's a great start. But if Aaron Savali goes like crazy and goes like 5 or 6 innings of like also 1 run, and then the bullpens are lined up, and you know, you like Cano has been a little shaky, and like Perez, like the Baltimore pen has not been like lights out. The Rays, the back end has been really locked in recently. Like you could see some potential like close games, and weird stuff happens in close games, and then you get advantage to the home team, right? Like you have that chance of potentially winning those games, which is where Taylor Walls comes in handy. Is like the defense has to get so much better, because the Rays win by playing sharp defense, taking away hits and runs, and pitching really well. And the offense just do something of value and get us the win. The Rays defense being struggling so far this season, that's been like kind of the biggest flaw, because the pitching has to be perfect and the offense can't like catch up. So with Taylor Walls, you're hopefully just raising the floor of that defense and potentially there. This next week will be like, I think a huge, it's still like early enough that things could change, but like after this week, if you have Baltimore for Chicago, the Cubs have been quite good, and then Atlanta, who's a little bit of a dive right now after Acuna went down, but still a very tough team. If the Rays can play well in this little stretch, I think that completely shifts the narrative for what you do in July at the trade deadline. But this could also, if you see that slip and they go back to playing kind of uncompetitive baseball, I think that kind of decides like, okay, time to make those moves with like Rosario, make those moves with like Harold, make like trade guys like Savale, or consider, shop Eflin, that type of thing. So this is a big week. Like by the time we talk next, we will know a lot, I think.
Which, might be after my Vegas trip. I'll have to check in on my Josh Lowe AL MVP ticket, see how that's going. He's played a handful of games. And my Rays
He's been great. He's been great when he's in there.
I know. I've been trying to trade for him in fantasy, like, ever since I knew he was close, and not getting anywhere. But yeah, I think it's like okay to be really happy about where we are, but know that not everything is fixed, but not everything is broken either. Like we've talked about, we're seeing better at bats from Randy Rosareno. You get Josh Lowe and Brandon Lau back. That just balance the lineup. They lengthen the lineup. They strengthen the lineup. Just great to have both of those guys back. And I'm really excited to see Taylor Walls back. I think like
I weirdly am too.
Yeah. I don't know. And I don't know. He's flexible. He can play all around the infield. Some sneaky power in that bat that the Rays, I think we're trying to unlock, and maybe did in some ways. And unfortunate that it's going to be, middle of June before he makes his big league debut. But man, I think it's okay to feel optimistic, but keep your expectations tempered. We've still got a lot of baseball left. I think there's 100 games left to play. The Rays are at like 31-31. So, these last 100 games, there's a lot of work to do, but I think it could be a fun season. Any other final thoughts?
Taylor Walls and Colin Poche coming back really feels it's very much like a weird comfort food, because like they're guys who have been with the team for a while, and like as much as exciting as it was to like see DeLuca come up and play pretty well, and I've enjoyed Richie Palacios and Ahmed Rosario, it's a little weird. This has been a pretty like unfun season overall. Like it's been kind of a grind. So like seeing like, oh yeah, Colin Poche, oh Taylor Walls, I remember them from when the Rays were like a great team, which was not very long ago. But like it's one of those things where it's like Taylor Walls batting 8th or whatever and playing shortstop is like a weird like throwback to not like an era of like amazing Rays baseball, but like he's been on really great Rays teams only. Like he hasn't been like necessarily the reason for that, but like it's something about like it feels, and I totally get this idea of like seeing like lineup cards where you're like, Yandy, Randy, Lau, Paredes, Josh Lowe, Harold Ramirez. Yeah, he's pretty fun. Caballero, Walls, Siri. You're like, I know all of those guys. And like, there is a little something to suddenly having a lineup where it's all people that you have seen come through before during big moments in big seasons. It's one of those, and this is the absolute worst, like non-analytical like thing I'm saying right here, but there is something like comforting to like, it's like an old meal. It's like a meal that you like make for yourself when you're feeling a little rough, and it's like you kind of back to childhood. You're like getting like a grilled cheese, some tomato soup, and some like goldfish crackers, and you're like, I know you're storming out there, so it's like kind of a night. It just feels like it's not going to solve everything. It's not going to solve all your problems, but like it's just nice to have back. And it's weird to say that about Taylor Walls and Colin Poche, two guys who Rays Twitter can absolutely light up often, but like they've been a part of really good teams. Like every time they've been on the team, the season has gone pretty well. Like maybe the postseason, whatever the small sample size, but like they've been part of 100-win teams. They've been part of 99-win teams. They've been a part of teams that have gone to the World Series. Like they've been with the organization for like a long time now. And so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. If you're not yet subscribed, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us whenever we go live. We are also live on the D-Rays Bay account on X. Make sure you give that a follow as well. And we're available wherever you get your podcast. If you leave a rating and review, that's the best way to share what we do to more and more Rays fans. And if you really want to say thank you, head on over to patreon.com/raiseyourvoice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. As always, make sure to head on over to draysbay.com to check out all of that great Rays coverage. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next week.